Augustus John was really the most famous British artist in the period before the Second World War. He came from Wales, studied at the Slade School of Art, and really he sort of exploded rather onto the art scene with his drawings. The Slade School of Art is part of University College London. It had been founded in the 1870s, and Fred Brown appointed a chap called Henry Tonks to teach drawing. Tonks became really the Slade. He demanded the very best. With Augustus John, Ambrose McAvoy, Gwen John, William Orpen, he helped to create a scene of students really competing with one another, working alongside one another to produce an extraordinary quality of drawing that hadn't really quite been seen in this country, and that sort of intensity for a very long time. A crisis of brilliance was a phrase of Henry Tonks. It was a group of students first in the 1890s who had a talent, a great talent, a brilliance at drawing as artists. The crisis was what to do with that talent, how it's not enough just to be a great draftsman or a good painter. You've got to sort of find your way, your own way as an artist. The work of all of the artists in the exhibition, this was where they were learning not just to draw, but learning to look. It was what John did exceptionally well. His draftsmanship was extraordinary in pastel, pencil, charcoal. But it's interesting when you see the exhibition to see the relationship between the students and in the period after their studies. They have a very distinct style. Stanley Spencer would go on to talk about the Slade way of drawing. People were amazed at how rapidly John drew. But you see that in the drawings we have here. The Slade had very talented female students at this time. Gwen John, obviously, was the great figure there. Avoids falling into what is essentially a trap for the female students. Henry Tonks says the female students are amongst the very best that he has. He's just disappointed that so many of them do get married. It was very, very difficult to pursue an art career in this period as a married woman and as a mother. So Gwen obviously never marries, certainly avoids ever having children. So it's a difficult situation for the female students, and that is really why we only have Gwen John in the exhibition as a practicing artist from that same group. John, Innes and Lise worked very closely together in Wales and also actually in the south of France. And you see that in their paintings. I mean, at points Innes and John are painting sort of shoulder to shoulder and painting the same mountains. John drew very quickly, Innes painted very quickly. So we're sort of learning from each other. And that's part of what actually the whole exhibition in a way is about the relationship between all of these artists. The women students were very important as sitters, but they're all sitting for each other. It was expensive to have a life model, and the opportunity to just draw each other was absolutely fundamental to them. So that's why we have a number of drawings of some of the female art students, like Mary McAvoy, who would marry Ambrose McAvoy. And then Henry Lamb's wife, Euphemia, she sat for many of the works, essentially became a model for many of these artists, such as Epstein, who's produced the beautiful bronze we have in the exhibition. What's exciting or interesting about the relationship between Lewis and John is what occurs around 1910, around 1912, where Wyndham Lewis discovers Cubism and Post-Impressionism and decides effectively to be a Cubist. I think Lewis becomes a Cubist because he knows he can do something that John isn't going to do. John never experimented in any way with Cubism at all. And Lewis suddenly sees himself, I can beat John. I can be dominant figure of British art in the way that Augustus John has been the dominant figure. It's Lewis in Blast who says the years up to 1914 have been the Augustan decade. It is about the relationships between them all, as this exhibition is about the relationships between them. So you have this group of students who've all been together at the Slade School in one place, learning from each other, being friends with each other, but also in a way competitive and rivals. I think that's really fascinating how close they are really as an informal group to one another, influencing one another, giving each other ideas, taking each other to new places to look at, drawing each other, using the same models as each other, using each other as models for their drawings. The intensity of that relationship between them all is, I think, what I really wanted to bring out in the pictures that we've managed to draw together for the exhibition.